by Robert D. Sangucci. The Boy and the Ghost. Down south, there was once a boy named Thomas, whose family was very poor. His parents worked hard from sun up to sundown on their little back country farm, but could barely put enough food on the table to feed their 7 children. Thomas had 2 brothers and a sister older than he was, and 2 sisters and a brother who were younger. So he was right smack in the middle. Because he hated to see his parents work so hard and his brothers and sisters go hungry all the time, the boy made up his mind to go to the city to earn some money so he could bring it back and help his family. Since the older children had to help their parents chop cotton and the younger ones were too little to go off on their own, Thomas, in the middle, decided he ought to be the one to try and help in his way. He set out the next morning. His mother hugged him and gave him a pot and a ham bone to make soup and said, "Now you always be polite to anyone you meet, and generous as well." Then his father embraced the boy, gave him a box of matches and a Kroger sack to carry things in, and told Thomas, "Be brave, no matter what happens, and always be honest." "We'll miss you," cried 3 sisters and 3 brothers, and they hugged him, one and all. "I'll miss you too," said Thomas, putting on a brave smile to hide how sad he felt at leaving. So off he went. As he walked along the road that led to the city, he picked up sticks for a fire, and he found some greens and other good things that grew wild, and put these in his croaker sack. When he stopped for lunch, he lit a fire. Then he filled his pot with fresh water from a stream and added the ham bone and the things he had gathered. Soon he had some soup boiling away nicely. When he was ready to eat, a poor man came by, even more ragged than Thomas, and asked, "Can I have just a taste of that soup?" "Of course," said the little boy politely, inviting the raggedy man to dip his tin cup into the broth. Together they finished the soup, and tasty it was. When they were done, the man said, "Where you heading, boy?" "To the city to earn money so's I can help my family," he answered. "You mightn't have to go so far," said the other, "if you're brave enough." "I hear there's a house on a hill not far from here. A rich man lived there years ago, but he died. Folks say the place is haunted, but the same folks say anyone who stays in it from sunset to sunrise will get the house and the treasure the old man hid before he died." "Why don't you go and get the treasure yourself?" Thomas asked. "I'm scared. That's the long and short of it. Folks say everyone who's tried to last the night has run away or died of fright. Now no one will go near the place." Thomas thought of his poor family at home. "I will," he said, gather up his ham bone and pot and putting them in his croaker sack. Soon after, boy and man parted company, just before sunset, Thomas spotted the lonely old house on the hill. Bravely, he walked up and pushed open the door with a screech. Inside, most of the dusty rooms and cobwebby hallways were empty. But in the kitchen, he found a big old iron stove opposite a fireplace. There were also a table with one chair and a candle and a spoon. The boy lit the candle. Then he put the last of his kindling in the stove, drew some water from a well outside the back door, and put in the ham bone and remaining greens to make soup for his supper. While it was warming, a bright light suddenly filled the fireplace across the room. There was an awful moan. Then a thin voice, sad voice, wailed down the chimney. "Look out, my legs are falling!" With a whoop, a pair of legs encased in elegant trousers, starting at fine leather shoes and ending at a wide belt with a gold buckle, dropped into the ashes in the cold fireplace. Immediately, they got up and began running around the kitchen. They kicked at walls and doors and even the side of the big iron stove, so Thomas had to keep moving out of their way. "Aren't you going to run away?" asked the ghostly voice. "I'm fine right where I am. Just so's you don't kick over my soup," Thomas said, stirring the boiling pot. Just as he was ready to carry his soup to the table, the voice wailed down the chimney, "Look out, my arms are falling!" And with a whoop, a man's 2 arms and middle, clothed in a silken shirt with silver buttons, dropped into the fireplace. Immediately, the legs went over and stood waiting, while the other part climbed up and settled in place. Then the headless body fumbled around the kitchen, rattling cupboards and pounding on walls. "Aren't you going to run away?" the strange voice called down the chimney. But Thomas, who was sitting at the table, dipping up his broth with the spoon, answered, "No need to. Just see that you don't knock over my soup." "Look out," warned the voice. "Here comes the rest of me." Then a scowling head with hair and beard red as flame and eyes like blazing coal dropped thunk into the fireplace ashes. Right away, the body of the man or ghost or whatever it was picked up the head from the hearth, brushed it off, and set it squarely on his shoulders. "Now," roared the figure, hands on hips, "what do you say? Do you want some soup?" asked Thomas, who wouldn't let his courage or his manners fail him. "There's still a little left in the pot, and you're welcome to share it." The ghostly figure said, "I don't need any food, but you're the only one, man or boy, who stayed long enough for me to put myself together. Now follow me." He raised his left hand. Immediately his fingers blazed like a torch, though the fire didn't seem to hurt him any. "Now fetch the shovel that's out by the well and follow me if you dare." "I will," said Thomas. The ghost led the little boy to a lonely spot far from the house. Stopping under a huge sycamore tree, the ghost pointed with his right hand to the ground near its roots. "Dig here," he commanded. Thomas dug and dug until the shovel fell from his blistered hands. The ghost remained silent, one hand raised and glowing, the finger of his other hand still pointing to the hole. After a short rest, Thomas wearily began digging again. Soon the point of his shovel struck something hard. He had uncovered a large earthen pot caked with dirt. When he lifted the lid, he saw gold and silver coins shining in the first glow of sunrise. "Give half my money to the poor, so my soul can rest easy," said the ghost, as his legs faded away, "and keep half for yourself." His arms and middle disappeared up to his neck. "You're a good, brave lad," added the floating head with a wink. "You set me free, and I thank you." "You're—" Thomas began, but the head was gone before he could say welcome. Thomas did as he was told. He loaded the gold and silver into his croaker sack. On his way home, he gave half the money away to poor folk. When he got back to the farm, his family was overjoyed to have him back safe and sound. Then the boy shared his wealth with the rest of his family, and they all moved into the house on the hill and lived happily ever after. And the ghost was never seen again in those parts.